Okay, so part 2. Last tutorial we learned about the tools and how to navigate the stage a little bit. And now we're going to look at the timeline, and the timeline is how we actually turn images into an animation. So we're going to be making a classic bouncing ball animation, and it's really useful because it will demonstrate our understanding of two of the principles of animation, timing and spacing, and squash and stretch. 2 principles for the price of 1 animation. Very, very nice. So there are various ways we can animate in Adobe Animate, and this style I'll be showing you is frame by frame animation. So let's give ourselves an image we can animate first, making sure that of course our document is on 920 by 1080, and that our frames per second is on 24. Okay, so let's give ourselves an image to animate. I'm going to go over to the shape tools here. Underneath the rectangle tool, we've got the oval tool, and I'm going to use it to create a ball. So I'm going to customize my ball a little bit. I'm going to make the fill color a nice orange, and I'm going to make the stroke kind of a darker brown. Alright, let's try and see what it looks like. Okay, pretty good. Fantastic. So yeah, customize your ball however you feel. And while I'm at it, I'm going to name the layer in the timeline. Now this is our layers as well as our timeline. So we can go here, double click. I'm going to call this simply ball. And remember, you're the only person who's gonna get frustrated without a named layer. These files can get pretty complicated, and if you aren't naming them, it's just gonna make the whole process so much slower as you have to go through new layer, new layer, new layer, new layer to try and find the one you're animating on. So name them. So let's give this ball something to bounce on too. So let's create a new layer. Go down to new layer here. I'm gonna call this one floor. And we're gonna draw on a floor. So I'm going to go to the line tool. I'm going to hold down shift so I make it incredibly straight, and I'm going to just increase the stroke a little bit. And there we go, perfectly good floor. Woo, great. So we've got the 2 things we'll be using to animate. No trouble. So, locking it, same as Photoshop. Useful because now if I am animating on this layer, if I had it off and I tried to select things, oh no, I'd be accidentally editing the floor too. We don't need it to move, so we're going to keep it locked. So let's get into our timeline just a little bit. So we can see here, we've got frames. One, that's kind of hidden, but there's 1, 5, 10, splits between there. And we can see as well what's going to constitute a second. So we're on 24 frames per second, so we know that here on frame 24, that's going to be a second. Fantastic. So let's give ourselves a second to play with for this animation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go right click and I'm going to go insert frame. I can also do this by just hitting here, take this off for a minute, and going for F5 on my keyboard. So we've got our second, and I'm going to be going for a kind of straight ahead animation style. Remember we've got straight ahead and we've got pose to pose. So I know this ball is going to go down, it's going to hit the floor, it's going to squash a little bit, and then it's going to come straight back up to this highest pose. So, I'm going to be working on 2s, which means rather than every single frame it being a different image, so like 1, another one, another one, another one, I'm going to keep the image on for 2 frames and then switch the image. One of the best ways of animating straight ahead in Animate is if you look here, you'll probably be just on keyframe, but if you go here and select auto keyframe, not always great to have on, but for this method it will be incredibly useful. So make sure auto keyframe's on. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to frame 3, and I'm just going to move this down a little bit. So I'm going to grab it. I can be on either tool, the selection tool, the free transform tool. I'm going to do it in the free transform tool. I just need to hit in the middle, grab it, and then if I want it to stay in a straight line, I need to hold shift. I can pull it down just a little bit. Yeah, so you may have seen that as we moved it, here you can tell that we have created a new instance because we have got a new dot here. So every time a new dot appears, it means the image is moved and there is a change between the frames. I'm going to go another few frames ahead, select it again, down a little bit more. And remember, when we're talking about a ball, actually probably a good time to show you guys, We've also got our tool here, the onion skin. So if we hit it, we can use it to see our past frames all on the same layer. If it's a frame that's sort of behind the frame that we're currently on, it'll be blue hue. And if it's in front of the frame, it's going to be green. You can see that as we sort of play through. So this way I can sort of time my frames out. So I know here at the top of the motion, we sort of ease out a little bit, so the images are sort of closer to the original image. And as we go down, gravity pulls the ball faster for its hit. So let's get the ball on the floor. Right, for that. Okay, so let's watch this initial motion. Great! There we go. Woo, we got an animation. Duh. Ball's on the floor. So let's get it back up for the bounce. I'm going to give it 4 frames here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, new frame. To give it some time to bounce when we put that in. And now I'm going to move it back up again. So turn on onion skin so I can sort of see. You can make this about the same as the last ones that you did. So if we go here to our first frame, and I copy frame, I can go here to say about frame 20, and I can paste frames. So then I can see exactly where the ball's going to be its highest again. So let's go for here, let's do another 2, move it up, move it up again. How's that looking? I'm just going to move this down. Okay, so let's watch this. And because I've got the same frame here at the start as I've got here at the end, I'm going to loop the animation. So we can do that by going to loop here, turning it on. You see we have a kind of bracket here. So I can move it so this is the last frame, and then when I play it, it will just go from here to here to here to here to here. So let's give it a play. Cool, there we go. So that is bouncing, and we are using timing and spacing. So as we reach the top, we slow, the images get closer together. As we reach the bottom, it gets faster, so the images are further apart. So that's a principle in motion there, timing and spacing. So yeah, let's look at our next principle we're going to be implementing into this animation, which is squash and stretch. So, talk a little bit about the ball here. We know that in real life, a ball doesn't actually squash and stretch a huge amount, but if we watch this animation, it is kind of boring. So giving it the squash and stretch will give it just a little bit more fluidity, we might call it. So, here at the top, we don't really need to worry too much about a squash and stretch because this is where the ball is going to be at its most normal. We're using squash and stretch to sort of show motion. And here, our ball is kind of, well, we can see they're close together, the shapes, so we're moving slower, so motion's not really affecting the shape of the ball that much. But when we go down to, say, here, these 2 frames, we are moving pretty fast, and we've got more space to fill. So we can use squash and stretch to fill that space. So when we get to here, I'm just going to pull this ball in a little bit using the free transform tool, pull it out a little bit, and when I get to here I'm going to go even further. I'm going to pull it out quite a lot, and I'm going to make it quite thin. So that should give the effect that the ball is moving a little bit faster as we go. I'll just turn off onion skin so you can see. So we're looking for that kind of fast pace. Here as we hit the ground, we return to our original motion. You can keep it this thin. It really depends on what kind of style of animation you're going for. If it's a bit more bouncy, I'm going to leave it as it is here. And then as I come to the bounce, because we obviously hit and we get a little bit of shape change as we hit the floor. So this 4 is now going to become a 2. I'm going to turn on onion skinning so I can see the sort of arc of the ball again. And I'm going to use the free transform tool to squish it down. Now, we know that it's hitting the floor, so I can actually deform using this little dot here on the edge of the ball. So I'm going to move that there, and now as you see, if I squish down, it's treating the edge as a hard edge. So let's squish it just a little bit, pull it out. Remember, when we deform, the ball is still keeping the same volume, so as we squish it out, we also want to make it deform a little bit at the top here. It squishes, it doesn't just get wider, it squishes down. Okay, So that should give it a little bounciness. And then it's got to come up. And we want to be back on our fast-paced squish like this. And as we come out again, we want to just normalize that a little bit. I might just move this down a little bit so it's more between. And squish it. Okay, now let's have a look at this animation. So let's take off onion skinning and give it a play. So yeah, there we go. We've created a bouncing ball using frame by frame animation. So yeah, you can imagine now, if we wanted to make it incredibly smooth, and I suggest you do this if you're planning on sticking with this method, you can now go between each frame. So here we are at the start, go here to the frame that's in the middle, and we can just put in-betweens in. Presto! A smooth animation. So yeah, that's up to your sort of tweaking. But yeah, so that's how you create a simple frame-by-frame bouncing ball animation. Now you can do this via tablet drawing if you want to make it look a little bit more traditional, or you can use this with the shape layers, up to you. So we're going to learn how to do this with motion tweens next, which is when we let the computer in between for us. So, we'd start with this frame, and then we'd give it this frame, and then we'd let it choose. You might think that this sounds a lot easier. I'm not sure it always is. Computers don't always work exactly the way you want them to. But yeah, so look forward to that tutorial, and congratulations on completing your first frame-by-frame animation if you've been following along. If not, get to work, and I hope to see your results soon.